Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. I bring to our first panel, Dr. Rahim, and also for panel, Mental Noriza Binti Abdullah, and my fellow friends. Okay, my name is Alia Binti Abdullah from TESOL 2 as your moderator from Pendidikan, with Abdullah as the timekeeper for today's presentation session. Alright, so before we start, I would like to read the rules and regulations that need to be complied during the whole event. Okay, the first rule is the time allotted for the presentation session is only for 15 minutes. Okay, number 2, the time allotted for the question and answer session is 5 minutes only and starts when the presenter starts responding. Okay, the third rule, the bell will be rung once in the 10th minute of the presentation and twice in the 15th minute, the presentation marking the end, and the question and answer session will begin. Number 5, questions from the panel of assessors should take precedence over other panels. And the last rule is the moderator reserves the right to mute the microphone of the participant or assessor during the question and answer session if it is found to have exceeded the time period. Alright, without wasting our time, let's start the ceremony with our first presenter, Machude bin Zulkifli from TESOL 2 to present his presentation. Please welcome.
I bring to my panel, my name is Ambilan and Dr. Ibrahim. So today, me, President will present my research which is teaching method used by PISMP in 2018 as a teacher trainee in PDRI in Breno High School. Background of the study. Language is a tool that helps people communicate. It enables them to express their thoughts, opinions, feelings, point of views, and also to exchange information, talk about experiences, likes and also dislikes, to explore similarities and differences. Language is one of the deciding purpose of dominating English. It alludes to a bunch of the underlying standards of language which agrees with the sentence structure in some random regular language. Grammar is a part of irrelated whole, which includes interrelated whole, which includes discourse, semantics, grammatization, which is the process of achieving linguistic expression through grammatical rules. Now, moving on to the purpose of the study. The purpose of my study is to study the teaching method that PISMP June 2018 TESOL teacher trainee uses to teach grammar knowledge to students at school. Okay. Now, moving on to my research objective and research question. Okay. My first, number 1, research objective is to examine teaching method used by teacher training to teach grammar in activity campus Dr. Ismail. And second, to determine determine the suitable teaching method for grammar among teacher training in IPG campus Dato' Razali Ismail. For my research question, firstly, what is the teaching method that teacher uses to teach the grammar? And second one, why teacher training uses certain type of method when teaching grammar? Moving on to the significance of research. Firstly, this research is important to the Ministry of Education (MOE) because it can influence them to consider the importance of exposing various teaching methods to the teacher trainees during their degree program. Second one, if you give awareness to the teacher trainees about the numerous teaching methods that can be used instead of sticking to only one method only. Lastly, it will help the administrator at the school to provide sufficient equipment or tools needed by teachers to adapt to the various teaching methods. The related past research. Firstly, research findings can be brought together on this question from a variety of sources. For example, Lesson Freeman has long since 1991 cited language acquisition and research regarding whether instruction can help learners acquire grammar they would not have learned on their own. Some research, although not unequivocal, point to the value of the form focused instruction to improve learners' accuracy over what normally transpires when there is no focus on form. Second one, according to Certificate and Review 2011, teaching grammar includes not only learning the rules but learning how to manipulate the features used by English speakers to express certain meaning and relationships. If we want to communicate, we must be able to produce the language in the way to be understood. Grammar should not be taught separately from the four skills. The four main skills which is listening, speaking, reading, and also writing. One, according to Hammer 2007, there are two typical techniques to studying grammar, which is deductive and inductive approaches. Students will be explained grammatical formula in the didactical approach to studying grammar. Students then develop a phrase or sentence in the language he has learned based on this explanation. The inductive method is the opposite of the deductive method. When learning grammar using an inductive approach, students are given examples of sentences first, rather than memorizing the formula. Students then will try to deduce the formula of the phrases from these examples. For my research design is a qualitative method which emphasizes objective measurement and the statistical, mathematical, or numerical analysis of data gathered through polls, questionnaire, and survey, or by manipulating pre-existing statistical data using computational techniques. Quantitative research focuses on gathering numerical data and analyzing it across groups of people or to explain a particular phenomenon. So, I use survey for my research design. For my population and sample, the population for this research is 98 teacher trainees from the TESOL major in Institute of Teacher Dato' Razali Ismail campus. They are in currently program Ijazah Sarjana Muda PISMP 2018. For this research, the researcher will select 61 teacher trainees from in program Ijazah Sarjana Muda PISMP semester 18 2018 intake. Because I used 27 respondents for my other study. Now, telling about the which instrument that I use for my data collection. The instrument that I choose for my research to collect valuable data is questionnaire, which is the Google Form. To get the best quality of data, I only distribute the questionnaire to the English teacher training. This is because my survey is about the strategy that teacher training use to teach grammar at school. I will not get the answer that I needed if I give it to teachers that do not teach English subject. This is to ensure I get suitable answer that will assist my study. Now, into research procedure. Firstly, in doing this research, I will identify the issue that happens in my lab, which is the urine symptom, and next I will write and present the research proposal to my supervisor, which is the supervisor manager, and then I will analyze and study the background of the study, and moreover, I will develop the research objective and question. After finishing this process, I will choose my target population and sample, and then I will get the approval from my supervisor before I continue this research. And then I run the preliminary study, which is the pilot study, to test the reliability of my questionnaire. And then I will establish the validity and the reliability of the instrument. And then we will collect and analyze the data using the SPSS app, and then writing the report and then presenting the report. Now, for the data collection procedure, firstly, I submitted the instrument to my respective supervisor to get approval whether it is reliable or not. And then, after getting her approval, I will provide the link to the Google Form to the selected teacher training, which is the lesson teacher training in my batch PISMP June 2018. Then, it took about 2 weeks to get the targeted amount of respondents for my questionnaire. For the data analysis procedure, I use the reliability test Tempat alpha to test the reliability of my questionnaire, and then I use the SPSS to do descriptive analysis to check the mean and the standard deviation of my data. This is the data finding for my RT1 and RT2. Teaching method. Teachers should do more speaking activities to help students feel more confidence in learning grammar. You can see this one of the items that has the highest mean, which is 4.61, with the standard deviation 0.556. According to the scale by 9, it is considered very high. And next teaching method is teachers should pay attention when students have difficulty regarding grammar. As we can also see, the number of mean for this teaching method is also high, which is 4.54 for the mean, and the standard deviation 0.743. for the last one. Session teacher training to do more speaking activities to help students to build more confidence. For the last two, session teacher training should pay attention when students have difficulty regarding grammar. The conclusion, session teacher training from Pendidikan shows great mastery in implementing methods to teach grammar at school. For the recommendation, consultation for the study must be conducted in a larger sample to get a better and reliable result. Moreover, Institute of Teacher Education should plan more activity workshop to give awareness about various teaching styles or methods that the teacher trainees can use. And lastly, for the implication of my study, the teacher, which is teacher trainee, will become more aware of the suitable teaching method that must be used in the classroom. PT Campus Dr. Ismail can also help the teacher trainees to boost their competencies in teaching grammar. And lastly, MOE can formulate a framework to enhance the mastery of grammar in Malaysian education system. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, our ceremony will be continued with the question and answer session from our panel. Please welcome.
Yes, good and very good morning. You're not you did that. You focus for grammar, you know? So I want to know what is statement problem for your listeners. You focus on grammar, so I want to know what is statement problem for your listeners. Go to the first slide. You do it, but you don't go. Yes.
Okay, my statement problem is grammar is an important aspect in English, especially for students in primary school. If the student lacks understanding from grammar, teacher need to check on their method of teaching in the classroom.
Okay. This is your statement or problem. Okay. Are you sure? You sure?
Yes.
Because if you have a title or another focus, your statement problem is global, you know, global. The global issue that I think is your title, you're right. You give me an issue, you know. But it's your statement, I think you cannot find the grammar, but you must get the issue. I give you a choice is the student is cannot speak English, never speak, don't like English. Yes, this is a statement problem. You're right, you know, your message is right. So I want to tell you what is different for title and statement problem. Yeah.
Okay, hi Anaki. Can you please go back to your RO and RQ? Okay, look at your second research questions and objective. Your research questions is why teacher trainee uses certain types of method, okay, when teaching grammar. And then your research objective to determine the suitable teaching methods. Do you think that your objective answering your questions there? And then you can also go to your the discussion and the data findings slides.
Q1 is the first one up there. Second one is the below lah. Yeah. Okay, so teacher should do more speaking activities. Okay, teacher should pay attention when students. Okay, can you relate it with the one that I asked you just now? And then you look at your discussions. Okay. Teacher training should pay attention when students have difficulty regarding grammar. Because in your research objective and research questions, okay, you are asking types of method, kan? Tapi in your objective, determine suitable teaching method. Can you see there are pro and cons there? No, that you're not answering actually. Okay. Method is something yang strategies, kan? So you tengok balik, you Google, you tengok research objective and research question. Like this. Okay. Why teacher training uses certain types? Why they are using certain types? And then you kata to determine the suitable, kan? Can you see those things? Boleh nampak tak? Okay. Boleh jawab tak? You have your own rationale tak to answer that? If your research question is why use that type? So in your objective, kan, mesti types tu, methods tu, kan? So, apa? Okay? So, ada jawapan tak? So in your research should be asking about the method. In your objective, you answering which method they are using. Kan? Betul tak? Kembali. It's not actually kembali. Because the teacher should pay attention when students have difficulty regarding grammar. Is that the method? That is only solution, kan? Method is some strategy. Okay. Apalah ini zero ya? Bilang set. Bukan change like this, you need to your objective should answer the accurate. Okay.
You can take my research question.
Kalau you kata why, sana benda jawab lah. Kalau you nak kata sini why they are using the method, then kan types of method, sana you jawab lah method apa yang digunakan. Okay, and then you should go back to your finding. Yes.
Thank you to our presenter and our panel. Next, please welcome our second presenter, our EVP Muhammad Ali from Tempat to present her presentation. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is our EVP Muhammad Ali. My research title is Semester 8 Classroom Training Teachers Perceptions on Reading Novels to Improve English Language Proficiency. First of all, I'll be talking about the background of the study. Reading serves as a source of knowledge and information. As we read novels, we tend to pick up a lot of vocabulary and learn various sentence structures. Reading is a crucial academic language skill for all second and foreign language learners in any higher education context. In this context, training teachers especially become competent with their subject matter. This is supported by the fact that all TESOL trainee teachers are required to read novels regarding the subject drama in English to fulfill the requirement of the course subject. Next. The problem statement. The first one is a research by Schwartz, Vicendis, Herrera, and Gonzalez, which is textbook has several positive impacts on language learning. This study clearly emphasizes the important point in increasing students' reading comprehension skills by giving them written text which can attract their interests, such as comic, novel, short story, storytelling, etc. The second study is by Tajuk, which is a monitored extensive reading schedule where students read comprehensible articles should be made part of the curriculum. This study focuses on the development and implementation of an extensive reading to enhance English language proficiency and motivation to read among 14-year-old students in a secondary school in Malaysia. The third study regarding my problem statement is by Seth and Farah, which is reading novels can enrich their culture knowledge and improve their language ability. How are these three past research related to my problem statement? I see there's a gap between these three studies to my research title. My research title focuses on TESOL trainee teachers in IPT kindergarten. Next. I'll be talking about the research objectives. The first one is to identify semester 8 trainee teachers' perceptions on reading novels in acquiring English language. The second objective is to analyze the differences in perceptions on reading novels to improve English language proficiency between genders. Next, my research questions are: the first one, what are the semester 8 trainee teachers' perceptions on reading novels to improve their English language proficiency? Second one, are there any differences in perceptions on reading novels to improve English language proficiency between genders? Next, I'll be talking about the significance of research. There are two, for TESOL trainee teachers and researchers. For TESOL trainee teachers, it will increase awareness for the trainee teachers to use novels as a medium to improve their English language proficiency. As future English teachers, we are expected to be at a certain level of proficiency in English language. Therefore, through reading novels, it can help expand teacher trainees' vocabulary, creativity in using different language structure. This research is done to prove that reading novels can improve teacher trainees' English language proficiency. For the researcher, I'll be aware of how teacher trainees perceive the idea of using novels to improve their English language proficiency. It can also provide interpreted data for lecturers to assess the teacher trainees' perceptions on using a novel. The data will determine teacher trainees' readiness for extensive writing. Next, related past research. The first one is Al-Aziz and Vicendis. It is said that written text can attract interest. This study is published in which they describe one of the crucial points in increasing students' reading comprehension skill is by giving them written text which can attract their interest. It is also been said that they also make a relationship between what they read and what they intend to write. The second research is from Rajnijati and Ambilan. It said that how novels are perceived by teachers, parents, and pupils. There are positive benefits of using popular novels. For language, novels can help in development of language and vocabulary. For emotion, it can also help in development of emotional intelligence. The last one is from Michaelson. it is said that reading fosters empathy and also appreciation for the value that cannot be monetized. Next, my research design is quantitative, where I use survey as the research approach. The information obtained from the survey will determine the respondents' perceptions on reading novels to improve English language proficiency. I believe that survey is the most appropriate research design to use. Next, population and sample. The population is 95 training teachers from semester 8 June intake 2008. For sample, I use 76 training teachers, and this sample is taken from Frenchy and Morgan table. Next, instrument, questionnaire. I use questionnaire. There are 20 items in my questionnaire. The first section is training teachers demography, which is I asked about class and gender. The second section is training teachers' perceptions on reading novels to improve English language proficiency. The third section is how reading novels can improve English language proficiency. This questionnaire was adapted from DRE. This item is also designed using 5-value Likert scale. After the supervising lecturer has validated my questionnaire, the aim of my questionnaire is to see how teacher trainees perceive reading novels and also how reading novels is related to history. Next, data collection procedure. Once my lecturer validates my questionnaire, I distributed the questionnaire through Google Form, and then it took a week to get responses from semester 8 TESOL training teachers. Next, data analysis procedure. I use two, which are descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. For descriptive analysis, there are descriptive statistics and mean interpretation to go. The mean is used to show demographic information about the respondents, such as their gender and class. It also shows perceptions on reading novels to improve English language proficiency based on the mean score of the responses. For inferential analysis, I use independent sample tests, independent samples e-tests, to make prediction or inferences and to data findings. For research question 1, the mean score is 3.69, which is higher, which shows a high value of score. From this data, it is agreed that teacher trainees agree that reading novels can improve their English language proficiency. Hence, it answered my first research question. Next, for my research question 2, my value is 0.152, which is higher than 0.05. Therefore, there is no significant difference between the perception of male and female on the reading novels to improve their English language proficiency. Next, discussion. For research question 1, respondents agree that adopting a novel as the main material helps improve their language, their English. They also agree that reading novels can expand their vocabulary. This is supported by a research by Garris, Allard, and Sanger. The second research question is results cannot be generalized due to the imbalance. Next, conclusion. For the first research question, training teachers have positive perceptions on reading novels. The second one, there is no significant difference between the perceptions of male and female. Next, recommendation. I would recommend to conduct on a bigger sample from different institute of teacher education in Malaysia to make generalization applicable to all ESL training teachers. It will be motivating to find out whether there were any statistical variation in training teachers' perceptions in this area of study. Another one is to further research with different types of novel. For example, a future researcher can find out the training teachers' perceptions on literature novels, as ESL training teachers are required to do a lot of readings regarding literature. Following such attempt, the current study's findings can be compared with the findings of the study with perceptions of literature novels to see whether training teachers had comparable issues or not. Next, implication. It influences training teachers' perception. Training teachers should perceive a positive overview on reading novels as one of the tools to enhance their English language proficiency. It is definitely beneficial for training teachers to constantly improve their English language proficiency, as we are the future teachers that will educate our future generation. Tested lecturers can also assess the training teachers' perceptions to determine the training teachers' readiness to engage in significant reading. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Next, our Selari will now continue with a question and answer session from our respected panel.
Okay. Only before you collect the data, what content research you must do? What is content research before you collect the data? You must do.
The item of what I want to ask my respondents.
Content research before you collect the data.
The research question and research objective.
Research.
Questions and research objectives.
Yes.
Based on your findings, okay, how many questionnaires that you have in your instrument?
20 items.
20 items. Okay, and then in slides about the instruments questionnaire. Okay, this is the content of it, isn't it? Yes. So teacher training's perceptions on reading novels to improve, okay. So how many questions then? Your perceptions?
10.
And then? Okay, and then how reading novels can improve. So, for that part, this is a quantity, isn't it?
Yes.
Unclear here. Because how novels improve, and then teacher trainees have positive perceptions. Okay.
The example for my item for this one, for writing, reading, higher editing skill, cultural preparation.
And then what? How reading novel improve? Itu
Whether
which part, which question is that?
I'm sorry.
Which question is that? For yang how reading novels can improve tu dalam objektif yang mana? For question mana?
One.
Question one. Future trainees have positive perceptions on reading novels. That is your findings, kan? Lepas tu you did mention how. Tadi kan? How apa tu?
Yeah, basically these two.
How reading novel improve? How meaning you have the technique.
What?
When you say how, meaning you have to explain the technique or whatsoever, isn't it? But here you just say that they have positive perceptions on reading, and then they agree that adopting a novel can improve their English. How will they improve? Agree reading can expand their vocab. So, meaning? What are the relation with the discussions? Really how novels or reading novels can improve?
Novels can improve their extensive writing and significant reading. Basically, combine these two.
Okay.
So yeah, basically combine these two for research question 1.
Research question 1.
Yeah, to answer my research question 1.
Yeah. How though? Okay. So, okay, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you to our panel and our presenter. Alright, next I want to welcome our third presenter, Isnur Al-Hamid Abdul Karim from the Tempat to present his presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I bid to my respected moderators, kind moderators, the wise timekeepers, and my beloved friends. Yes. So my name is Isnur Azam Karim, and I'm from Tesel 4 PISMP June 2018 intake. And today I'm presenting my research titled Improving Pupils' Capitalization Mastery Using PISMP, which is an action research. Moving on, I want to tell you about the background of my study. Firstly, as posted by Adib in a newspaper article in 2018, it shows that Malaysian people shows declination in English proficiency ranking as recorded in the global as English examination. This is supported by Tajuk because one factors of this declination in English because of the weakness in English writing, and it is well justified as Ten from whom explained that one of the most difficult skills to master is English writing. Why is this difficult to master? Because in writing, it has very specific natures such as vocabulary, spelling, grammar, and punctuation. One of what we call branch in this specific nature is capitalization. What is capitalization? Capitalization is one of the mechanical aspects in English writing that include uppercase later and small case later in English conventional writing. Moving on. So now I will tell you the urgency of my study. So as I was conducting my practicum in one of the schools in Kuala Lumpur, I observed that I taught year 2 pupils, and while I was teaching them, I was teaching, and I asked them to write. I saw they made a lot of capitalization mistakes in writing. So, as a teacher, I studied the SKP, the Student Curriculum and Data Pendaksiran by the Ministry of Education in 2018. I realized that by the end of year 3, these year 3 pupils have to be very proficient in writing, especially in the basic writing mechanics. So, what of the writing mechanics is capitalization. When I look at their exercise, I saw like this one. The pupils write small letter at the beginning of the sentence. It is wrong. And this one, the pupils write uppercase letter at the middle of the sentence. It is also wrong. When I saw a lot of this in my pupils' work, I feel very worried. So here I want to state the problem in the next slides. Then I want to tell you my research objective and my research questions. As I carry out this research, my objective is to improve mastery of capital letter usage among these literature pupils. So I want to answer the questions of the strictly my intervention helps to improve capital letter mastery among these literature pupils. So we are just talking about capitalization. Capitalization is thus capitalization really important. So in the next slide, this is the significance of capitalization. So if individuals fail to imply the correct capitalization rules, it will address on weekly signals for the readers. As an example, when you are writing a paragraph or a sentence, and then you didn't find where is the uppercase letter, everything is lowercase letter. So you don't know where is the beginning of the sentence, where is the common noun, where is the proper noun. There is a problem that you face if we fail to use correct capitalization. So moving on. What I was thinking, how to solve the capitalization, how can I help my pupils? So I remember when we teaching conjunction, we are using fanboys for and something like that. And then I also remember in teaching Masa we use ATM, Tempat, Masa, to teach about kata sendiri nama. So I'm thinking maybe I can use acronym also in my research. So I find something that is related to acronym, and I found these two past researchers. And the first one said that a good acronym should be realistically stimulated and complete context with my pupils, with the learners. And in the second studies, I found that a good abbreviation or acronym should cater to the learner's capability. What learner's capability should be catered? It is the acronym should be able to be pronounced. Boleh disebut dengan jelas. Tak ada kalau kita sebut acronym tu rasa we feel weird. Contohnya acronym yang tak kenal dengan mulut Melayu, kita akan rasa terbelit lidah. So I'm thinking, this acronym is very flexible. How should I implement it to the pupils? I was thinking, should I make it into exercise? Should I make it into flipbook? And I'm thinking something more flexible that can be anywhere, because my pupils that time is in sort of small schools with a lack of facilities. I'm thinking the most flexible thing is by doing drilling. I'm thinking what is the most efficiency of drilling? So I reading, I found these two researches. The first researcher said that by drilling, it will add the amount of contact time of the pupils with the context of teachings. And in the second studies, I found that when we make more drilling, we make more exercise, we will emphasize on the teaching, writing as a product, and it emphasize on the avoidance of error and mimicry. So we can see that drilling is important as avoidance of error, mimicry, and a lot of repetition of contact times. So we can see the acronym importance by relatively stimulated, easy to pronounce, and then drilling a lot of times, avoidance of error, and mimicry. So we move on to the next slides. Now I want to see that's the acronym that's really suitable with the capitalization issue among the it is my research focus. So I studied about the researchable, the relevance of and compatible of the acronym of the reading with the capitalization issue. Firstly, it is researchable. Why? When you're talking about researchable, there are three things. Firstly is the data we want to collect, is it valid, is it relevant? The second thing, is there any reliable past literature that we can refer that can support our researches? So firstly, there are reliable data collection method. How? I found that a study by Chile and Jones in 2019 that they conduct a study about from 150 students, and there was the study how capitalization problem. So how they collect the data, they give a capitalization problem, and then these 150 pupils, they answer the question and they analyze the questions paper. So that is how I will do in this research. Secondly, about the availability of the literature, supporting the literature. As we made in the past just now, we found how a good acronym should be, how grading should be. So that is how my research focus is researchable. Secondly, the relevance of my research. I want to see, as I said in the significance, this capitalization, it will address weaker signals if we do not use it correctly. Secondly, the first one, if we cannot, in year 3, the MOE stated that they have to master the capitalization as stated in the SKP. So, this capitalization issue is relevant to be researched. So, lastly, the compatibility of acronyms, compatibility of reading with my capitalization issue. Firstly, writing is productive skill. It is observable, it is accessible. So reading is also something that you can observe, something that you can assess. So reading is very, aligned with this capitalization problem, with this writing skills problem. So the changes along the research can be observed clearly. Okay, moving on. This is, I would like to introduce my research participants. These are 3 my research participants. It should be participant A, B, C, but I put a pseudonym to them. We can participant Aman, Natisha, and Citra. Firstly, Aman is a boy. She is eldest son. Love playing football. Very interest in class. Able to listen to the instruction. Complete task punctually. Easily distracted. And is a friend. I would like to emphasize on the love to play football and easily distracted. Okay. On the second participant, we call her Patricia. She is the only child and friendly and introvert girl. Love to surf the internet and read books during her free time. Slow to catch up in the lesson and always focused and hardly distracted. So this is a straight in Patricia. And lastly, the Citra. She always seems to arrive at school and she loves to surf the internet during her free time. This is the personality that I want to highlight from Citra. She is talkative and cheerful, but she is easily distracted when her friend asks to getting. But Citra is very keen to ask questions which she doesn't understand during my class. From these pupils, I would like also to highlight the diagnostic test marks. Aman gave diagnostic test marks 4 out of 10, Patricia 4 out of 10, Citra 3 out of 10. What is the importance of the diagnostic test mark? Okay, let's move on. But firstly, we are talking about name my information. What is name? Actually, name is an acronym that consists of 4 basic rules of capitalization. Firstly, F stands for the first word in sentence, like the first word. The start, we use it in capital. And the second one is I. When we use I in a sentence, where we it should be capital letter. The third one is T, title, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, it should be written in capital letter. And the last one, name. Every proper name has to be written with initial uppercase letter. Or proper name, not common name. So, that is what my information is. Moving on. This is how I carried out my research. Just now we're talking about diagnostic test. I carried out my diagnostic test to choose a suitable research participant and then to identify how severe the problem is. This diagnostic test consists of 10 questions, and I divided pupils into the one that received 9 to 10 marks as good, 6 to 8 as average, and 1 to 5 as poor. So I will take these poor students to be my research participants. And the 3 just now is the one that in the weak category. So as I get participant, as I brainstorm the intervention just now, I carry out this first cycle of intervention. In the first cycle of intervention, I focus on introducing the fit name. What's F, what is I, what is T, what is name. And then I drill them. F, what is it? First, I, what is it? I pronounce, use the title. I keep reading them and reading them. And at the end of the first cycle, I observe their behavior. I observe the post-intervention test from them. So as I observe there are sort of weakness, I make some amendment and improvements. So I move on to the second cycle of intervention where I added fit name song and a collaborative worksheet. The name song is to add more engaging with the participant. Collaborative worksheet is to make more authentic exercise with the pupils. Okay, moving on. This is my data collection procedure. I collected the document analysis, the observation, and the semi-structured interview. The document analysis firstly is a pre-intervention test, which is carried out before the first cycle of intervention. Post-intervention test second one is conducted after the first cycle of intervention. Post-intervention test cycle 2 is conducted at the end of the intervention. So after I conducted this first, along the first cycle intervention and the second cycle of intervention, I carry out observation. This observation consists of 5 observation items, and I recorded according to 1 to 4 Likert scale. So each 1 to 4, I have their criteria. Generally, the number 1 is for when the pupils cannot do at all. Number 2 is when the pupils can do with a lot of guidance. Number 3 is when the pupils can do with a little guidance. Number 4, when the pupils can do excellently. And then lastly, moving on to the semi-structured interview. I conducted 5 questions, major questions, and then followed up with small follow-up probes that can help me to gain more clearer insight of the pupils' understanding. So moving on, data analysis procedure. So I carried out automated analysis from the data analysis with a team. So inductive approach was conducted to extract the team from the instrument. These are the things that extracted from each data instrument. From the recommended analysis, I can see improvement. From the observation, I can see the acronym usability. Is it can be pronounced? Does it can be understandable? Instructions usability. Does I explain clearly? Interest. Does the pupils interested with the intervention? Attentiveness. Does the pupils distracted with the intervention? From the interview, I can see the understanding. I asked the pupils, do you understand what I was teaching? All of them answered, yes, I can understand. It's about the letter. That acronym usability is still with this one. Improvement also still with this one, but with their insight from the participants' view. And the last one, interest also from the participants' view. Okay, moving on. This is the findings from my research. This is how I portray the improvement things. You can see in the pre-intervention, all the pupils still quite in average and weak. But in the last post-intervention test, all of them are in the show significant improvement. And the themes was also summarized here. We can see most of them show positive impact unless in Aman. Why? What we mentioned about Aman's criteria, he loved to play football. He was easily distracted. So Aman has something that we call kinesthetic intelligence. He don't like to sit, he don't like to make little oral activity. So he is cannot focus many sessions. He does not like what I'm doing, he really easily distracted. And about the acronym usability, he is really distracted, he really not focus, he can understand. F stand for what, I stand for what, D stand for what, and N stand for what. So that is how we can see Aman gain less interest during the process, but he gained a great improvement. And the other one gained fair improvement, but still significant, but they enjoy the process of using FitNet. So moving on, in this discussion, I will answer the research objective and the research question. So as I study this objective, you can see that from the graph, FitNet successfully improved participants' capitalization mastery. So that's also research answer the research questions. As the participants' mastery improve, as they can help them to memorize the rules easier. However, the participants did not show significant interest towards intervention, etc. Okay, lastly, the recommendation of the research. Then the conclusion this study is successful because the objective is achieved. So this is my recommendation. These two things, because my information is just acronym, it's flexible. I want to incorporate it through communication or maybe ICT such as Facebook or maybe music. And other thing is research to distinguish open down and open down because it's a big problem in my resolve in my intervention. Lastly, the usage of acronym in another field of information. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Now please welcome our panel to ask any questions.
Are you sure you have one only research objective?
Yes, that is what I discussed with my supervisor.
One only.
Yes.
So if I understand what you give me, but you have 2 or 3 objectives. And only one objective. Usually I think is not suitable. Second, can you tell me how you analysis data?
This data. Firstly, there is the analysis. From the graph that I showed you just now, there is the
What is program for SPS as you use?
But I do not use any SPSS because I use the analysis.
Okay.
In my analysis, I observe the score. There is show the improvement. Other than that, I observe the answer. What is the problem? I can see the one problem is they can identify between common nouns and proper nouns. This is the most problem that I can start with information. This is what I saw in my analysis. And my observation, I look at the observations at least.
Because you have a data collection procedure, you have big test and you have post test, you know?
Yes. The test that I get, I observe the marks and the answer.
You only listen to mark.
And the marks for to see the improvement. And then I see the answer to see any rise in
The
issues.
result is significant or not?
For me, all of them show significant because I compared from the pre-intervention and the last post-intervention test.
Just look at your discussion. Okay, your RO then. How do you claim that your fit name successfully improved the participant capitalization mastery, but your research equation stated that did not show significant interest?
Because my article is does fit name help the pupils improve in capitalization? Basically, there's a question: does it help? So it helps to improve. But this is the elaboration from does it help? It does not help fully, because when we say helping, how does it help? From the memorization, or maybe from the interest, or maybe from the motivation. But here we only help as the memorize the rules easier. It is shortcut to memorization of the concept, but it does not show any interest towards intervention. When you're asking about the research objectives, I am very positive that this intervention successfully improved the participants' capitalization mastery, because we can see in the graph, this one.
Ya, betul. Tapi tengok pada discussion tadi. You tak satu dah lah. Kan? You just put participant mastery improve as the guide. So yang bawah tu did not show significant tu, you got like limitation ke something kan. Bila you buat macam tu, when I know nothing about it. Kenapa ni? Sekali cakap macam ni, sekali cakap macam tu kan. So dah apa tu dah success lah. Maybe the limitation is because kan, maybe you boleh come up with maybe other interpretations whatever. Okay.
Alright, thank you to Tempat and our. Next, please welcome Nur Aisyah Bilik from the Sofa to present her presentation.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to our panels, moderators, timekeeper and my fellow friends. My name is Nur Aisyah Bilik. Today I'm going to present my research study entitled Semester 8 Lesson Training Teachers Perceptions of Teaching English Vocabulary through the Total Physical Response Method. Okay, let's see to the first element, background of the study. My study is based on these three aspects. Okay, the first aspect, vocabulary issues, second, teaching challenges, and the last one, the TPR method, or also called as the Total Physical Response Method. Okay, let's see to the first vocabulary issue. Okay, studies indicated that English learners who has higher vocabulary has a better chance in mastering English language. However, in our Malaysian context, our Malaysian learners, English language is not our mother tongue. So it's very difficult for them to comprehend the meaning of the English words. So this factor has led to low motivation in learning English language. So these are English learners, Malaysian English learners, okay, afraid of English learners frightened to make mistake and ashamed of their mistake because they do not understand the English language. So these create pressure in learning English acquisition. Okay, these challenges has been encountered by the training teachers during practical phases. In order to overcome these challenges, the training teachers subconsciously use the TPR method to overcome the issue. The TPR method is an approach linking language with the actions. The idea of linking language and the actions, it drives deep into the learner memory, resulting in maximizing the language acquisition. Next problem segment. Okay, as you can see here, these three are the researchers done by other researchers. Okay, the first one, students who are taught using the TPR approach gave good feedback. conducted by Karaki and Bush in 2008. Second, observation results show people seem more relaxed during learning with the presence of the TPR method. And the last one, teachers indicated that their 8th grade pupils learn vocabulary quickly using the TPR method. As you can see here, these two are the views from the student and this one from the teachers. How about the TESOL training teachers? There's no study done for TESOL training teachers' perception. So to bridge the gap of the past studies, it is necessary for me to conduct this study. Okay, next. Okay, this is my research objective. I have two research objectives. Okay, the first one, to identify semester 8 TESOL training teachers' perceptions on teaching English vocabulary through the total physical response method. Second, to identify male and female semester 8 TESOL training teachers' perceptions on teaching English vocabulary through the total physical response method. Next, as I have two research objectives, I also have two research questions. Q1, what are the perceptions of semester 8 TESOL training teachers on teaching English vocabulary through the total physical response method? Q2, is there any difference between male and female semester 8 TESOL training teachers' perceptions on teaching English vocabulary through the total physical response method? Next. Okay, this is the significance of my study. The result of my study are expected to benefit English teachers, provide additional reference to teach using the TPR method. It also likely to give insight for them to reconsider the TPR approach in teaching and learning session. And for training teachers, it can enrich the understanding of the TPR method in teaching English vocabulary. And the last one, for other researchers, the content of my study can be used for future research development. Next. Okay, these are the related past research based on my study. The first one conducted by She in 2018, he conducted a study to identify the effectiveness of the total physical response method in teaching English. And he concluded the TPR method can help teachers arouse students' interest during teaching and learning process. Second, past research, most students actively participated and happy when teaching English vocabulary using the TPR method. This study was conducted by Ahmad Taufik, Asri Satyarthi, and Ilma Savitri in 2019. And the last past research conducted by Z, this is the latest one that I found in 2021. He stated that the TPR method is helpful to reduce e-book students' interest and effectively arouse students' enthusiasm to learn English. Okay, from this past research, it can be concluded that the TPR method can be very effective in teaching English. Next. Okay, the research design that I use for my study is quantitative, which is survey. Why I use survey? Survey allows me to conduct a study for a large size sample. And also, survey allows me to conduct a study via online. And this is very convenient for me since this study was conducted during the pandemic era. Okay, next. Okay, for population and sample, the determination of population size and sample I refer to Prepsi and Morgan table. And from the table, it stated that the nearest number of population and sample for my study is 95 people of semester 8 TESOL training teachers, and for sample, 76 semester 8 TESOL training teachers. Moving on. For the instruments, my instrument is divided into 4 sections. For section A, demography, I asked about gender and also unique and unique. Section B, Training teachers' perception on the total physical response method consists of 6 items. Section C, the benefits of the total physical response method consists of 5 items, and the last section, section D, the weaknesses of the total physical response method consists of 4 items. Okay, for data collection procedure, I undergo 3 phases. The first one is I decide targeted population and sample using the Krebsy and Morgan table, and after that I created a questionnaire and get approval from my supervisor. Then I distribute the questionnaire via online, and lastly I waited for a response from the respondent. It took me 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get complete response from the respondents. Okay, once I get all the responses, okay, the data will be analyzed using 2 types of data analysis, which are descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. For descriptive analysis, I will use SPSS version 26, descriptive statistic. From this, I will get mean score. For the mean score, I will interpret using mean integration table by Moiduni. Okay. For inferential analysis, I will run t-test, independent sample t-test, using SPSS. Okay. From the data value obtained from the t-test, I will interpret using hypothesis integration by MATLAB. Okay, this is data findings for research question 1 to answer research question 1. Okay, it can be concluded that TESOL training teachers showed a positive perception to the usage of the TPR method in teaching English vocabulary. Okay, let's see for mean score for each section. Okay, section B, we got 4.35, which included as high. Section C, 4.37, D, 3.37. But to conclude for this research question, to answer this research question, I will use the overall mean of the instrument. So it's 4.09. So from the mean score, it concluded that training teachers possess positive reaction, which they agree that the TPR can reduce effective filters in the learning and teaching and learning session. And this findings, this result is supported by the past research done by Ahmad Taufik earlier. Okay. For research question 2, I use inferential analysis, the t-test, and what I obtained was the p-value 0.011, which was lower than significant value 0.05, which concluded there is a significant difference between male and female training teachers' perceptions on teaching English vocabulary through the TPR method. Why I said so? Okay, let's see here. 0.011 is lower than 0.05. Based on MATLAB interpretation, when the p-value is lower than significant value, the null hypothesis is rejected. When the null hypothesis is rejected, so the answer, there is a significant difference between male and female. However, this happen would be due to unequal numbers of male and female respondents. Because my male respondents were 15 of them, and female 46, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Okay, so conclusion from the findings and discussion. IQ1, semester 8 TESOL training teachers revealed positive perceptions on teaching English vocabulary through the TPR method. And for IQ2, there is significant difference between male and female semester 8 TESOL training teachers' perceptions on teaching English vocabulary through the TPR method. Okay, for the recommendation, I recommend teachers to implement the TPR method for slow learners. Why? Because it can provide a conducive learning
learning environment for them, and also the targeted works can be more mapped out. Okay, for other researchers, I suggest that they investigate the effectiveness of TPR method on other English part of speech. For example, nouns, verb, adjective. Okay, and then second, I suggest them to investigate the correlation between the usage of the TPR method in teaching and learning session with the pupils' academic achievement. Okay. And last one, the implications. Okay, the implication of this study for English teachers, it provide more insights on integrating the TPR method in teaching. For training teachers, it can broaden training teachers' knowledge on the benefits of the TPR method. And the last one, other researchers can use the data obtained to support for their new findings. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, I now please have our panel to ask any questions.
Where are you find a question at?
Oh, I adapted from the past research from Ahmad Taufik and the two of them. I don't remember the name of them. The past research, I copied from it, but I do adopt an adaptation from the past research questionnaire.
Okay. What is, I'd like to, before you tell me about SPS at 26, you know, and you tell me also about t-test.
Yeah.
Okay. What type t-test you use in your research?
What type of t-test? Independent t-test.
Independent t-test.
Yes.
Why do you use independent t-test?
Independent because I want to know the difference between male and female.
Male and female.
Male and female. Lesson from teachers.
Okay.
Okay, so based on your hypothesis and non-hypothesis,
Yeah.
you have there is a significant difference between male and female. So what are the difference?
What are the difference?
How many female and female do you have, and then how they cope with the PPR method?
The difference between your perceptions, because the number of respondents are different. So majority of the female respondent really agree that TPR method is a good method. Meanwhile, for male, they also agree, but the percentage, the result, the range of the result a bit lower than the female. Okay, thank you.
Thank you to the fourth presenter. Next, please welcome our last presenter for today's event, Rauda Itani Inti from SL2 to present her presentation.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all. I, Rauda Itani Inti from SL2, will be presenting my research report entitled The Perception of ESL Training Teachers Towards the Use of Authentic Materials and its Incorporation in Primary ESL Classrooms During Practicum. This research report is conducted under the supervision of Dr. Saizah Binti Jafar. Okay, so the background of my study. As you all know, in Malaysian primary ESL classroom, textbooks are one of the commonly used teaching and learning materials by teachers. However, in order to be able to communicate successfully in English, students also need to be exposed to the language used outside of the classroom, so that the exposure to the language is not limited to only the words and sentences in the textbook. There is a statement by Polo 2014 which states that several studies have shown how textbook language differs from authentic speech. Therefore, this shows that the integration of authentic materials during teaching and learning session is necessary. Okay, the statement of the problem. Although there are many many positive benefits regarding the use of authentic materials. However, there are a few contradicting opinions on the use of authentic materials. This is because authentic materials can be difficult for ESL learners, especially those who are less proficient in the language, due to the difficulty of the language of authentic materials, because authentic materials are intended for native speakers or real audiences of the world and not students. And there is a statement by Mugimu and Sikiziyu, 2016, that states that research on the accessibility of authentic materials in classrooms shows contradicting data despite the pedagogical benefits of authentic materials for language learning. Okay, the purpose of the study. So this study aims to explore the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials for English language teaching and learning session, and also the incorporation of authentic materials by ESL training teachers in primary ESL classroom during practical. Here are my research objectives and also research classes. There are 3 for each. Okay, the first research objective is to identify the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom. The second one is to investigate the incorporation of authentic materials by ESL training teachers in primary ESL classroom during practical. And the third one, to study the correlation between the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom and the incorporation of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical. Okay, so these are the research questions that are going to be answered through this study. The first one, what is the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom? The second one, how does ESL training teachers incorporate the authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical? And the third one, is there any correlation between the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom, and also the incorporation of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical? Next. Yes. The findings of this study is beneficial to all educational practitioners in primary ESL classroom, especially for training teachers and also novice teachers who have limited experience in selecting suitable teaching and learning materials. And also the finding of this study will be able to provide an insight to curriculum developers to revise and revamp the English language curriculum in the future. Yes, the related past researches for this study. There is a study conducted by Barry Silva, 2015, to study the roles of authentic materials on language learning and cultural and understanding, which revealed that newspaper text, one of the examples of authentic materials, has enabled students to practice language meaningfully in the perspective of communicative language skills. Therefore, this research has proved that the use of authentic materials do benefit language learning. And a similar study regarding the perception of authentic materials in language teaching is also conducted by Darwish in 2014, but this one is conducted in Kuwait to investigate the attitude of elementary school teachers towards the role of authentic materials as a motivational tool to develop the students' interest to read and write in English. And the results of the study show that majority of the teachers find integration of authentic materials as relevant and enjoyable. Okay, so my study will seek to investigate the perception of ESL training teachers. The research design for my study is quantitative method, and it uses a survey design. The population for this study is semester 8 June 2018 intake class of training teachers in IPT Federal, consisting of 98 training teachers. And from the population, the sample is going to be 80 June 2018 intake class of training teachers in IPT Federal. This sample size is determined by Crashy and Morgan sample size determination table. The research instrument used to collect data is the questionnaire. The questionnaire is constructed using Google Form. There are 4 sections this questionnaire. The first section, which is section A, requires the participants to fulfill their demographic data, such as gender, class, practical school area, as well as how often they use authentic materials in their teaching and learning session during practical. Meanwhile, for section B and section C, the items intended to answer research question 1, which is to investigate the training teacher's perception towards the role of authentic materials in primary as a classroom. In section C, are also about training teachers' perception, but it is to investigate the training teachers' perception towards the contrast between textbooks and authentic materials. As for the last section, the statements are to investigate how does ESL training teachers incorporate authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical. So, the statements in section B, section C, and section D consisting of statements in a Likert scale in which the participants have to express their agreement or disagreement with the statements from a scale of 1 to 5, which is strongly disagree to strongly agree. Next. The research procedure for this study, first, of course, the topic is selected. After the topic has been selected, RO and RQ is formulated. And then after having the RO and RQ, literature review is conducted to find past researches related to the study. And then after that, a research design is chosen. After a research design is chosen, the data is collected, and from the data collected, the data is analyzed. And from the data, the conclusion is drawn. Next. Okay. For the data collection procedures, the first, of course, items in the questionnaire needs to be constructed. After constructing the items in the questionnaire, pilot study is administered to test the validity of the items. After ensuring that the questionnaire is valid and reliable, distribution of questionnaire is conducted to actual respondents of the study, and then from the data collected, data analysis is conducted. Next. Okay, data analysis procedures. The first step is to prepare the raw data. The data is transferred into SPSS because we are going to use SPSS to analyze the data. Next, descriptive analysis is done. For descriptive analysis, in section A, the frequency and percentage of each item is analyzed. Meanwhile, for section B, C, and D, the mean for each item is analyzed. As for inferential analysis, Pearson correlation test is used to study the relationship between the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom and the incorporation of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical. Next. Okay. So here are the data findings for this study. For the descriptive analysis for RQ1, this is the item that has scored the highest mean out of all items in the section. So as this item scored the highest mean, this is the most agreeable statement by ESL training teachers, which is I think students should be given the opportunities to interact with authentic materials in primary ESL classroom. And as for research question 2, how does ESL training teachers incorporate the authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical? There are two, for this research question, the items are divided into two aspects, which are the skills that the training teachers use to incorporate authentic materials, and the factors that they consider the most when selecting authentic materials. So, the items that scored the highest mean out of the skills that they use is, I use an authentic materials to teach reading skills with a mean of 4.40, and the factor that scored the highest mean is I took into account the lesson objective for my teaching and learning session. So discussion based on the highest item that is most available by the training teachers, it shows that most ESL training teachers supported the view that students should interact with authentic materials in primary as a classroom. This is in line with the statement by Darwish, Hilda, and Fatih, which agree that teachers use a wide range of authentic materials to maximize the teacher's ability to engage students with the language. As for research wise and tool, you can see that most ESL training teachers use authentic materials when teaching reading skills, and the factor that is considered the most when selecting authentic materials is lesson objective. This is aligned with a statement by Thomas 2017, which says that in order to ensure that the authentic input is engaging, interesting, relevant, and provide meaningful communication, classroom activities should be developed based on authentic materials. Next. Okay, so this is the findings for inferential analysis. Next. Okay, the Pearson correlation coefficient value R is 0.575, and based on the scale proposed by Davis 1971, the value lies between 0.50 to 0.69, which indicates a high strength of correlation between the variables. Therefore, this indicates a strong relationship between the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom and the incorporation of authentic materials by ESL training teachers in primary ESL classroom during practical. Okay, so conclusion to conclude the findings, ESL training teachers acknowledge positively the integration of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom, and the ESL training teachers prefer to use authentic materials to teach reading skills, and the factor that is considered the most is the lesson objective for their teaching identity session, and lastly, the perception of ESL training teachers towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom do influence the incorporation of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom during practical. Next. Okay, here are some recommendations for future study, which is the first one, to expand the quotation of the study, such as involving the ESL training teachers in other institutes of teacher education around Malaysia, and also to conduct a study on the students' perception towards the use of authentic materials in primary ESL classroom. This is because students are also responsible for their learning. Therefore, by studying the students' perception towards the use of authentic materials, teachers will be able to know about what the students think about using authentic materials and the problems that they face. Okay. The implications for this study is novice teachers and training teachers that will undergo their practicum can gain insight regarding the incorporation of authentic materials in primary as a classroom, and also it can provide an insight for curriculum developers to devise the English language curriculum in the future, especially the typical and teaching materials by taking into account the perception of training teachers towards the use of authentic materials. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Now please welcome our panel to ask any questions.
I want to know your procedure you collect the data.
Procedure.
First step.
First step, construct the items in the questionnaire.
Then?
And then I will administer and I will conduct pilot study to check the validity of the items. And then after that, after ensuring that the items are valid and reliable, the questionnaire will be distributed through Masa to the actual respondents of the study.
Okay. Why you use correlation in your research?
Because I want to know if there is any connection between the two variables, which are the perception of ESL training teachers with the use of authentic materials.
Why you can use the t-test?
Because t-test because t-test cannot be used to study the relationship between two variables.
You have only one variable.
No, I have two variables.
Okay, so
The first, perception and information.
Okay.
Okay, so your findings agree with your past research? Align?
Yes.
Link?
Yes.
Okay, so what are your authentic materials used during your practicum?
I use socks and also sometimes newspaper articles.
Okay, and then what was the result?
Because during my first practicum, the students are not really proficient in English, therefore it is quite difficult to teach with the newspaper. But they do enjoy songs because songs have a fun element to it.
Okay, thank you everyone. So, Alhamdulillah, with the end of the presentation from our fifth presenter, then our presentation session this afternoon will now end. Congratulations to all presenters who have successfully presented their studies today. It is hoped that all teacher face gave various input today, including constructive comments and suggestions for improvement and refinement of their research project. So I would like to thank to our panel, my fellow friends, teacher trainee of MPT campus Dr. Rasani Ismail, and also fellow audience who were willing to attend our seminar for today. Before we end our session, I would like to ask you to give some to our seminar.
Okay.
We have to.
Oh.